The women of Fox's Outnumbered are having a hard time understanding why it is that some women's magazines might be a little bit more favorable towards Hilary Clinton than the Republican women running for the presidency, particularly Carly Fiorina. Let's watch.
I mean, this is amazing, right? So the editor of this magazine is saying it was total coincidence that she was featured on the cover of the magazine the very moment that her mother announced her candidate for the presidency of the United States. Says it was total coincidence.
I don't believe in a lot of these types of coincidences. And Ainsley, when I worked on the Hill, I worked with these women's magazines to help do outreach for Republicans. And at the time, a former Good Housekeeping editor-in-chief named Myrna Blythe published a book called Spin Sisters. Harris is nodding. This book blew the lid off of the liberal bias at women's magazines. And I do think since then, nothing has changed despite that book. They were very defensive about it, but a lot of these female magazine editors, they just don't give Republicans, and I can speak to this experience, they just don't give them the same fair shake. But Republicans do have a woman on their side. Carly Fiorina is going to be running. I don't see these magazines giving her the same shake that they're going to give Hilary Clinton.
Well, you know, let's just look in the past. Vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, we didn't see anything really from these magazines. Now, since then, some things have changed, but she's not on the ticket anymore.
What? That last point was hilarious. She's not on the ticket anymore, and she's irrelevant, which is why no one talks about her.
Yeah, she is at best a grade C reality show star. But yeah, no, that of course is the sort of, that's the women's show on Fox, and so they understand bias against women, or so they say, although their version of what it would be to be unbiased is to pretend that all women should be treated exactly the same regardless of what their political philosophy is or what policies they're pushing for. It should be irrelevant what they would actually do if they were to win in these elections. It should only matter that they possess feminine genitalia. That is apparently their position. Because Carly Fiorina is a woman, Hilary Clinton is a woman, there couldn't possibly be any other differences between them, right?
There are huge differences between them, obviously. And when you think of the big magazines that have featured Hilary Clinton, the magazines that they're referring to in that segment, they're talking about Glamour, Vogue, and others. I mean, think about what the heart of those magazines includes. It includes acceptance of, I don't know, maybe the gay community. And so to have like this great positive feature on Carly Fiorina, who by the way is not exactly the sexiest candidate, in these magazines that have these employees that are gay, that have people in the fashion industry that are gay, people who are fighting for their rights, I mean, it would be insulting to say the least. Now, to run an article about Carly Fiorina and focus on what her policy ideas are, I think is totally fine, right? But what they want is for these magazines to write a puff piece on Carly Fiorina. And sorry, you don't get to make that decision. They're not going to write a puff piece because Carly Fiorina is a terrible human being who doesn't believe in equal rights for everyone. So I don't begrudge any type of fashion magazine for not wanting to include this woman on their cover. She's a terrible person. Yeah,
exactly. It's why the Republicans, and especially why at Fox News, they want minority candidates, why they want female candidates. It has nothing to do with actually trying to integrate into the Republican Party an understanding of the concerns of that group or what could be done to better the position of that group. It's just to nullify some perceived advantage that they don't understand is not based on her being a woman. It's based on her being a woman and potentially an okay president.
So yes, and one other thing that I want to add to this, and it's somewhat related, I don't care about the gender of any president. Do I at some point want a female president in the United States? Yes. Does that mean I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton? Hell no. Not by a long shot, okay? And the reason why is because I care about the policy ideas. I care about whether or not this person is actually going to be positive for our country, okay? And considering Hillary's track record with corporations and her track record with foreign policy, I'm not really interested in her, right? So this isn't me standing up for Hillary Clinton versus Carly Fiorina. This is me saying, who cares about the gender? Let's stop having these ridiculous discussions about, you know, whether or not someone is supposed to be the next president because of their gender. Let's just focus on what matters the most. What are their economic ideas? What's their foreign policy ideas? And Carly Fiorina is a disaster, and honestly, Hillary Clinton isn't, you know,
she's
shiny. She's definitely better, but she's not a shining example of liberalism in America.
And one final thing, you understand that they're calling for affirmative action. in that segment. They're basically saying that you should ignore the actual distinctions of these people. You should just push them because of some demographic characteristic. Finally, I do want to respond directly to Andrea Tantaros, if I could speak to you directly, Andrea Tantaros, about why you might have a few more covers of Hillary Clinton and her extended family than Carly Fiorina. It might have more to do with the fact that Hillary Clinton was the first lady of the country for 8 years. She was a senator. She was the Secretary of State. And she is currently an extremely likely to win candidate, whereas Carly Fiorina was such a bad CEO in her one major position that she was forced to resign. And in the time between then and now, all she has done is run a couple of extremely shitty statewide campaigns in California for political office and run a couple of ads like the Demon Sheep one that were a laughing stock across the internet up until today. Those are additional important distinctions that you should factor into your next analysis.
Damn, how do you like our puff piece?